So I want to bring to the stage Brenda. She's from the Anita Borg Institute, and who, if you all don't know, Grace Hopper celebration, gigantic event for women in tech. She's going to talk about diversity data in particular. So please welcome Brenda to the stage.
Thank you. Well, good morning. How's everybody today? Well, I know I'm excited to be here. These are my people talking about tech inclusion. That's what we do. So, as was said, my name is Brenda Darden Wilkerson, and I'm the president and CEO of AnitaB.org. We just heard that one of the things we do is the Grace Hopper celebration, and it is the biggest gathering of women technologists in the world. And we're about to do that in about a month, so phew. So our organization is dedicated to supporting and advocating for women in technology. So of course, tech inclusion is important to us. But when we think about it, that support and advocacy needs to be comprehensively intersectional. So of course, for us, it starts with women, but it's equally important to think about race, ethnicity, age, physical ability, identity, and lots of other social statuses. So having the opportunity to talk about diversity data, it's right up my alley. So I think there's some slides here. Okay. All right. So now, when we talk about diversity in tech, before we can talk about what matters, we need to talk about why it matters. At AnitaB.org, we believe that the people who imagine and create tech should mirror the people and societies for whom they create it. And so, of course, if tech is created by a narrow band of our population, the majority of it, what can tend to happen is it swings towards the ideas, the ambitions, the motives, the supports of that population. So now if that population happens to be, say, male and heavily of a single demographic, you can understand how that tech is going to swing more to support primarily and serve that demographic. So what that means is, right now, we're not meeting the needs of a majority of a global population. And it also means we're missing those opportunities currently. So now typically when we have these discussions, it starts around the value of diversity and inclusion to the bottom line. So I'll start there too. So obviously, the data shows consistently that those teams, especially at the senior level, that have more diversity, specifically more women, outperform those that don't, at least to 34%. And McKinsey did a separate study that found that we could add 2.1 trillion with a T to our budget, to our national economy, if we were, and I'd like to say, when we fix the gender gap. So now, those are a lot of data-driven, hard cash reasons to do what we do. But you know, one of the issues is that diversity, the term gets so bandied about so loosely that after a while it can become completely undefined. Sometimes when you hear a company say that they're about diversity and inclusion, you wonder what that really means, because the implementation sometimes is lacking a standard. So when I hear that a company is committed to diversity and inclusion, I ask them, what are you measuring? So if all of a sudden we had gender parity, we had 50-50 women, but most of the women were at entry level, almost maybe a smattering at mid-career, and none at the C-suite, would that be parity? When you're working towards gender parity or a commitment towards diversity, does the picture that you're painting, that you're going towards, does it mirror what society looks like? If not, we need to talk. So, as the head of AnitaB.org, it is my personal goal that we reach 50-50 gender and pay parity. And my moonshot is by 2025. And people say, wow, that's so soon. But this is urgent. Think about those opportunities that we're missing. Think about those people that we're not serving. So to get to that, we have to think about getting past this conversation of, we can't find any. I mean, women, aren't we 50% of the population? Where are they looking? We exist. So I say if you're looking at those same places that are predominantly male and a predominantly one demographic, I'm saying you need to look outside of your non-diverse box. So, data that matters, number one, and I'm going to talk through about 5 points. The number of diverse candidates you're able to find will mirror the diversity in the places that you're looking. Are your recruiters still looking in their top X universities, 5, 8, 15, whatever that number is? Are they propagating degree inflation, looking for advanced degrees for entry level? Could it be that certain work experiences and life experiences really bring the richness that's required to the position? Could there be that career-changing woman who goes and takes a boot camp that brings the richness that's necessary for the position? All of these are the types of questions that we need to ask ourselves when we are doing this work. Number two, the power is in disaggregated data most of the time, not in the aggregation. When a company talks about including women, what are their roles? What are their titles? What about the percentages, mid-career, senior, about the CEO? When you call a company diverse, and let's say that they get to 50% women, are they 50% of the payroll? Or all the leaders mostly men? These are important questions. When you see pictures and numbers like this, we need to look at the numbers behind the numbers. So we're looking now at the number of women that are in tech across the board. When you look at these numbers, does that really show great representation? I wonder. Now, another important data point that we're focusing on in the org this year are women founders. In 2018, unfortunately, the amount of money granted to women founders stagnated at 2.2%. Now, once again, we're 50% of the population, but we get 2.2% of the VC dollars. I have issue with that. Also, between 2009 and 2017, Black women-led startups raised only 0.0006% of $425 billion. Now, new ideas come from lots of different places. And it's interesting that these stats are true in spite of the fact, according to First Round Capital with Harvard Business Review, that women-led companies, or companies that have at least one woman founder, outperform those with all male founders by 63%. So, number three, let's talk about retention and advancement, and also parity. Beyond the numbers of intersectional women in any company, there are stories. There are important information that we need to focus on. Now, everybody's heard the data that 50% of women in STEM leave STEM within 12 years. Now, that's different from the 20% of non-STEM that leave. And between 2017 and 2015, the number of African American women in tech dropped 13%. So we need to study why they're leaving. But more important, we need to study why they stay. Let's study the difference between promotions in men and women, the difference all the way down to the intersections. Let's study the pay parity, the culture, what's going on with medical leave and family leave, all of those things that make up the entire lifestyle of the people who work in tech. These are really, really important questions for us to focus on. Number four, management and empowerment. Now, I'm not just talking about getting women into management, and that's really important. But when we look at why women stay, if we don't look at what's going on with their supervisors, we're going to lose out on some really important data. Do the supervisors have experience managing diverse teams? Or were they just great individual producers that got sort of pushed into management? In addition to advancement in salary, what kind of recognition, special recognition, is doled out at the company? And how much of that do the female population get over the male? And what's the demographics of their supervisors? Many times are great nuggets that we're missing out on until those women walk out the door. Is there a formal sponsorship program? All of these things are things that are easily measured and we should be measuring. And finally, number 5, policies and practices. These are so important. Sharing the details on employee policies is a great indicator of the cultural context of a company, and it shines a light on their true efforts. What are your non-disclosure practices and arbitration policies? What about paid family leave? What does that look like on the books? Very few companies, unfortunately, release their data to the workforce. And unfortunately, based upon what happened yesterday with the EEOC, it's likely to decrease. Most companies don't make that data public. So at the end of the day, data transparency, it takes bravery. And we applaud all the companies that share their data with us. We have a program called Top Companies where we measure rigorously these types of things and more that I'm sharing with you, so that we make sure that we get to the numbers beyond the numbers and we truly measure what matters. At the end of the day, all of us in this room have a powerful voice. And if we use it to hold companies accountable and really do the hard work right now, we're going to get to those opportunities that are out there right now. So I think we can get to that moonshot of 50-50 by 2025 if we really put our back into it. Thank you.